I came down to the Newman House bar on Friday night about 10 o'clock, and there was a gaggle of philosophers. I don't know what the technical collective noun is for philosophers. Does anyone know? Is it a pile, a gaggle, a collective, a flock maybe? Yeah? A flock of philosophers chatting, who'd come over from another party and were here with a friend. So not to say anything personal from the conversation in public, but just we had a great philosophical discussion about Aristotle and Aquinas and Schopenhauer and Nietzsche and Kant and Kierkegaard. This was all in about half an hour. But we got onto the theme of happiness. For many of these philosophers, especially for my great hero Jean-Paul Sartre, how elusive happiness is. You want something and you don't get it. Okay, you're miserable. You want something and maybe you do get it. This is even more challenging. You get there, you fulfill your dream. But as soon as you arrive, the horizon stretches further. It's like climbing in the foothills, and you get to the top of the hill and you think that's it, and then you see the next hill, twice the size, in front of you. The horizon of happiness is always extending. We're restless. This is a philosophical theme, isn't it? Not just religious. There's something that won't sit still, that's almost built into our nature, and it drives us forward, and we achieve great things, hopefully, and we do achieve, hopefully, much happiness and find much joy, but there's always something more. And that almost defines us as human beings. The more. This is the situation of the rich man today in the Gospel who meets Jesus. He has, as far as we can see, everything that someone could want. He is a man of great wealth, and so we presume comes with that security and status and all the other things that come with wealth and riches. And not just that, we can't just say, oh, he's one of those cunning, exploitative tax collectors or something. He is sincerely keeping the commandments of the Jewish law. So we assume that he's a devout, upstanding member of the Jewish religious community. So worldly life, religious life, faith, spirituality, everything is going well, but still he's looking for something more. And he has the honesty to bring his question to Jesus. This is what's so impressive about him. It's urgent. It's not just he is having a conversation with Jesus and he asks a question. He runs up to Jesus, kneels before him and puts this question to him. What must I do to inherit eternal life? How can I find the more? And what must I do to achieve it? It's good for us. It's good for you to ask yourselves at the start of the academic year, what are you seeking? What are you looking for? Really to reflect on that over these weeks, and to turn that into a prayer, and to bring it to prayer. Please be honest in your prayers as this man is. Often in this first stage of going away to university, we're praying in the way that we did when we were little children, and that's not a bad thing in itself. We've got stock prayers that we ask for, and we've got prayers that we say by rote, and these are great gifts, really. But especially at this stage in your lives, to go even deeper and to make the prayer more personal and more sincere, so that you are really bringing the things that are on your heart to the Lord in your prayer, even if you don't understand them completely. One of the most important secrets of prayer is just to be honest. Don't lie in your prayers. Don't fake it. You can fake it to some people, but not to God. Even if you're confused about your desires, even if you don't even know what you're going to say before you say it, even if you're embarrassed about your desires, if you're ashamed about your questions, if you think that this is not worthy of prayer or of God, I'm sorry, it's not true. The Lord wants everything, and he needs you to bring the honesty of your heart so that he can respond, so that he can help you to sort out what's real and important and what isn't so important, and even that he can bring you to ask deeper questions that you didn't know were there. This is the pattern of the Our Father, isn't it? Just that we ask for our needs. Give us this day our daily bread. And sometimes our need is to have a question answered. Your daily bread might be, I'm worried about this, I'm confused by this, I'm stuck with this. Bring your honest needs and questions to the Lord, as this man did. How did Jesus respond? Well, a beautiful phrase. Jesus looks at him and loves him. He looks at him and loves him. It's very personal. The love of Jesus for this man and for each one of us. That Jesus is not just speaking to a crowd, but face to face. As you keep hearing this quote from Cardinal Newman, heart to heart. Never forget that you are loved by the Lord, and that the things he says to you are said out of love for no other reason. It's why I'm glad, in case you haven't spotted it yet, that we've got this new icon on my left, just between the crucifix and the tabernacle. So this was just put up here in September. I'm pleased that we have the loving, compassionate face of Jesus Christ in this Eastern image of the Pantocrator. Yes, there's a solemnity about this, and traditionally Christ here is in glory, blessing, with the book of the Scriptures in his hands. But there's also a gentleness, I think, a kindness. He's in glory, but it's the same Christ that you can imagine walking through the streets in Galilee. To look at this icon, I hope, when you're in this chapel, especially for your personal prayer, is to believe that Jesus is looking at you personally in this way. He's looking at you with love, and he's inviting you to know his love. This phrase, actually, please just stay with it. Jesus looked at him and loved him. It's so unique to Christianity. And it's actually the heart of the gospel. That we believe as Christians that God entered into our history, into our world. That he was born of the Virgin Mary. He walked among us. He gave his life to save us on the cross. He rose from the dead for us. Christianity is not just a theory. It's an event, an encounter. It's a person. And just as this rich man met Jesus on the road, so we meet him too, face to face and heart to heart. Let's be really grateful for our Christian faith, that the Son of God stands before us and loves us and calls us by his name. God has a face. This is the miracle and the uniqueness of Christianity. There is no distance. We meet him in prayer, in faith, in the sacraments, in the love of others, in the service of the poor, in the words of the Scriptures. All the different ways that Jesus stands before us and looks at us and loves us. But then, in the light of this love, there is a moment of honesty from Jesus. He says to the man, "You lack one thing. Go and sell everything you own and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and then come and follow me." Is this a general teaching about the danger of riches? Well, partly, yes. The great temptation for all of us to get attached to money, wealth, power, status, especially in the university worlds in which you are mixing now. How much biblical teaching there is about this, and how much the rest of the gospel that we heard today is about this very point. It puts our ambitions in perspective. How distorting it is when some of your university rankings are based on graduate earnings. How is graduate earnings a measure of a good university? It's a measure of something. I'm not saying it's unimportant, but does that affect the ranking of your university in what it means to be a true, worthwhile university that a student would want to go to? Again, I'm not saying it's not relevant or important, but how distorted our perceptions of goodness have become through some of these artificial rankings. So yes, there's a word to all of us, but there's a word specifically for this man. Jesus knows him. He's talking to him, and he sees that particularly for this guy, there is an obstacle in this man's faith. The one thing that is blocking him from true life, from happiness. It's true for us. Jesus invites us to follow him on the most amazing adventure of faith, to be his disciples, to find eternal life. But sometimes we are blocked. There's an obstacle there. Something is getting in the way of us deepening our faith. And often we don't want to acknowledge it. It might be money, like this guy. It might be a dream, an ambition that we won't let go of, like a dog chewing a bone. It might be a person. It might be a relationship, or a resentment, or a lack of forgiveness, or a hurt. It might be a sin or a lifestyle choice that seemed very normal and acceptable, and we now realise is causing us problems in our faith and our walk with the Lord. Often it's not clear at first, but it becomes clearer, and we hear Jesus saying, if you want to follow me, you need to face this. You need to let go of it and be free from it. This is the message of the Lord, but you see, it's a message of love. There is a cost to discipleship, but it's because of the prize of the joy that we are longing to achieve and discover. There's a sacrifice, but it's a sacrifice that we can only make out of love, and Jesus only asks us because of love. There's a fork in the road, a call to conversion. Often it's very difficult, but please, when you meet this obstacle, when you face this challenge from the Lord in your faith, don't run away from it. Talk to him, pray about it, and pray that you can have the courage to be honest about what needs changing and to be able to do that. Look, to finish, I'm not trying to create some life crisis for you, okay? Let's hope you're very happy and getting on with your ordinary week ahead. I'm just saying, let's get into the habit of saying yes to God. That's all. This is simply, again, the Lord's Prayer. You pray this every day. It's not me telling you to. You say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. You say it. Do you mean it? And the more we say it and mean it, and the more we are in the good habit of simply trying to love the Lord and say yes to him, then when the big things come, they won't frighten us. They might give us a little wobble, but they won't knock us off balance. And what happens to the man at the end? Aha, I'd love to poll you. I won't. What happens? Did the man refuse this invitation? Well, look, I'm really annoyed. I read 3 biblical commentaries yesterday, and they all said that the man walked away and refused to follow Jesus because he was too attached to his riches. They're wrong. I'm sorry, I don't have a biblical theology degree. They're just wrong. It doesn't say that in the Gospel. It says he went away sad because he was a man of great wealth. A better translation, the Greek, it's that he went away grieving, grief-stricken, because of his great wealth. But it does not tell us what happened when he got home. We shouldn't be surprised that he didn't just follow Jesus, because Jesus tells him to go and sell his property and give it to the poor and then come follow me. There's a time lag. There's work to do. So no wonder he's grieving. This is probably the biggest challenge he's ever faced in his life. It hurts to give up things. But the fact that he's grieving doesn't mean that he refused. It's open-ended in the Gospel. Let's hope, with historical hindsight, that this man had the courage to go home, to grieve, to think and pray, and then to say yes and do the deed and sell his stuff and give it to the poor and follow the Lord. Let's have that hope for him. And much more importantly, let's have the hope for ourselves that we can do the same.